Hello, my friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family. I hope you guys are doing well. Thank you for joining us once again.
Super awesome to see everybody. Hi, Nicole. Hi, Larry, Brian, Terry Charms. You guys have been chatting nicely in the chat room. You guys are awesome.
Let's see, we got Hypnosis, Cruzan, and I saw Raven in there, Ray Ray. Good to see you, brother, Mish, William Carr, Angela, Kim S. Glad to see you guys. Smiling through all the scars says, well, they're bringing people off that ship to my community.
Thanks.
And which community are you in? Because there's so many people being brought to so many different places right now.
Yeah, there is. And, that's just really strange how they seem to, instead of taking them home, their hometown, they just take them somewhere.
Yeah, and I think the big thing we're going to take from today's update is that it seems to be spreading very quick outside of China in certain spots, and boy, do people react differently in different places.
She said Anniston, Alabama. Wow.
Okay, yep, yeah, we are going to talk about that as well.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. We got a lot of updates today, so we'll talk a little about updates and a little about preparation and go from there.
So, yeah, I got a couple of messages from a couple of friends that are on the East Coast and all, and just mentioning things that we should mention, think about it. If you're out there in public when you're pumping gas, right? I mean, last time I pumped gas, I wore gloves, took them off, and then she immediately squirted the disinfectant on the hands as well. Mm-hmm. So we double dipped there.
Yeah, we did.
And the other thing too is credit card readers. Think about credit card readers. They're going to be one of the worst things at all. With those touch screens. How many people in a day touching one of those things?
Right. Credit card, never mind money. That's a given. That's dirty. But the credit card things, yeah. So I guess we got to, sorry, you guys, dig a little deeper as far as how to keep ourselves safe out there.
I see Brother Wages World's in. His wife and daughter are still sick, so please send prayers and healing to them. So, yeah, different countries, absolutely different reactions, to what's going on out there. We've seen China. We've been watching China, and we see how, for the most part, the Chinese people are very, very complicit. They just go along. We see that they allow themselves to be hit, beaten up, herded like animals. They don't have much of a sense of rebellion, and they just go right along with it, being boarded up, welded shut inside buildings. They're very well. They really listen to their government. Totally. And it's not the case in some other spots, which is interesting too. And every country is probably going to be unique. So here we see daily new cases reported in South Korea, right? Look at that chart. Now, South Korea is actually testing. They may be testing more than most places. And maybe that's why the growth in cases is so exponential. We have, China, which we completely doubt the numbers coming out. They don't make any sense. We recognize that. And the way we've seen the cases take off in some other countries now real quick also gives you a feel that the Chinese numbers are complete BS. And, I've had so many people send me that same link to this guy that was supposedly a Chinese military official saying it's much worse and it is a weapon. And, we agree. I mean, I don't think there's anybody that doesn't think that it's probably a lot worse than, there might be a few people, but the vast majority of us think that it's way worse than what's being reported, especially inside of China. I would not be surprised if millions have already perished in China. I wouldn't be surprised at all. And when we see the fact that we're closing in on 1 billion people locked down, that tells you something's pretty big here. And as we look over here, we see 30 Israeli children quarantined after exposure to coronavirus infected Koreans. So the coronavirus has infected nearly 78,000 people globally, at least that's what they say. And a group of 8th graders was recently quarantined in Israel after exposure to the virus. So on Saturday, 30 Israeli 8th graders from Beersheba were instructed to self-quarantine due to their contact with South Korean tourists who tested positive for the coronavirus. The students' several teachers were sent to isolation on Saturday night in addition to several teachers. According to the Education Ministry, the students will continue their studies and receive assistance from counselors at home. The group of Koreans to which the Israeli teens were exposed visited Israel from February 8th to 15th, with 9 confirmed coronavirus diagnoses announced upon the return to their home country. Currently, Israel is refusing entry to tourists arriving from South Korea, in addition to several other Asian countries. Meanwhile, one of the 11 Israelis who were flown home after being quarantined on a cruise ship in Japan has tested positive to the COVID-19 virus. First case to be reported inside Israel, the health ministry said on Friday. And South Korea has 433 cases with 2 deaths as of the time of that writing. So, what do you think?
I think that's really scary. You start looking at these children and they're innocent. They haven't done anything wrong. And considering what this might actually be, I mean, this is just wrong on every level. It's sick.
Yeah, again, as we've been saying for a while, I would not make any unnecessary trips to big public places because we really don't know how much has spread already. Okay, people are talking about the 96 hours thing. Okay, well, hang on one second. You guys are impatient. So you see, this is Hal Turner's radio show. You have 96 hours to finish preparing. This coming week will be the last normal week on Earth because of the coronavirus. And if we look at what we saw just now in Iran and Italy, I don't think that's a stretch. Because when it hits fast as far as these particular areas. I think that we are being vastly underestimated here in the U.S., vastly. And I suspect that some of the flu deaths are really this. That's my guess. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would definitely agree. And if this isn't it, you guys, the time is coming. So this is just a time to maybe there's a slight chance it's a dry run, but it's probably not. This is a time to really put all of your information, all your knowledge to the test. Get ready. Just be ready to stay home for a little while.
Yeah, I don't like the idea of clickbait. And since these don't really get monetized anyway, it doesn't matter. So it's trying to maybe shake people that are snoozing a little bit. Aww. Yeah,
Thank you, Miss Susan Donahue. Many thanks so much. In the 80s, 90s, guess what we built into tech? The Damon process. My guess, they're still in sub-processes. I'm not too sure about that. I don't understand it. But thank you for your support.
Oh, thank you, Paul Dio, and thank you also, Susan, for your support. You guys are awesome. Damon processes.
The Damon process is where they come
so
back.
It's interesting, I'd like to talk to you more about that sometime or get some more info. Interesting how they always use phrases, certain words, daemons. Yeah. Daemons are not a bad thing. Demons are a bad thing, but there's always these plays on words and stuff, which are really interesting. We saw how quickly it hit Iran, and boom, 1.2 million people on lockdown. Mm-hmm. And then now, northern Italy, I think it's 12 towns now are on lockdown. There might be more. So what they're saying here, and this is out of Hal Turner's radio show, which a ton of you guys keep sending me links to and talking about, is just how quickly it could go bad. So if we got if this might be the last week where most people are going to feel okay, perhaps, about going out in public. And this is probably it. After that, we would hope to see everybody masked up and wearing gloves and wearing glasses, as well, if you're going to go out.
Yeah. Are you saying we have 96 hours? That's according to Hal Turner. Not us. It's just one of the headlines. And can we still get a prep video, urban or big city in particular? Please. I have been stocking up, though. That is really good, Henry. We're still going to try to get a video out, but this is what Hal Turner says. That's not what we're saying. We're just saying be ready, because it could be true.
Well, and again, just look at what's going on with Iran, and we're going to look there a little bit closer, and then look at what's going on with Italy. So let's put this over here and come back to it after we go through a few more things. But basically, I don't disagree that I think, well, you guys know. I mean, how many people do you see out there now that are wearing masks and stuff? Are you starting to see more of the public wearing masks? Are you starting to hear more people talking about this out there? I would expect that's probably the case.
Yeah, we don't really live in a civilization here, so I haven't seen any, but really super curious if you guys are.
Rosemary says nobody's taking it seriously in Australia. That's not good. Yeah, and Hal Turner does get some inside information, as does Benjamin Fulford, like we were talking about as well. I think we're starting to go to a different phase right now, and that's the bottom line. So Italy declares national emergency. So, could the U.S. declare a national emergency next week? Perhaps. We don't know. I certainly hope they're not going to be covering up until all of a sudden it's a medical martial law lockdown. Yeah. I certainly hope that's not the case. I'm waiting to see, what's going to come out of our government. Now, Italy's being very proactive, and you have northern Italy on lockdown. I mean, just on lockdown. As we were saying, there's a lot of cases now starting to explode outside of China. So you see Chinese scientists find the virus in urine. So the question there, I mean, if you go into a urinal after somebody else had been there, and, if you just bump something or go and, if you have to touch the faucet, there's so much. I think, this is going to shut down, obviously, trade, and it's going to kill restaurants. It's going to kill all sorts of businesses. Oh, yeah. Over here you see a young woman infected 5 relatives without ever showing any sort of symptoms. South Korea cases surge 8-fold in 4 days to 433. Country reports 3rd death. 32 UK and European citizens arrived back in UK on evacuation flight. You have an outbreak reported in South Korean psychiatric ward. We were talking about all the outbreaks that are and will be happening in the prison systems. That's going to be a mess. And Japan's cases tripled in a week as well. So cases outside China go exponential. And that's what we're talking about with this 96-hour window. If we look at the map...
Henry Brown, thank you. I see a lot of people not taking this serious in California. I don't know what to think, because people are acting like things are normal, no care in the world. Yes, a lot of us are going through that, Henry. You really got to take care of you right now. Sorry, and thank you for your support.
And it most definitely could be frustrating for those of us that are very aware of what's going on. And then you have other people that are taking trivial flights or doing things that are reckless, and you just can't understand where their head's at. So here we're seeing 78,620, which, remember, they changed the way they're counting again, so this is way underreported. When you look at that one spike there, that was when they started to include people that were sick without necessarily testing them. There's not enough kits in the world. That's part of the problem too. And there's entire countries and states that are really not testing anybody. So, this is so underreported. It's just crazy. But we see that the other states are jumping upwards. U.S. has 35 now. Canada, they're still showing 9 there, 16 Germany, 22 Australia. I got to expect there's more in Australia. 26 Taiwan, 28 Iran, Italy 79, guys.
Thank you, Hypnosis. Friends laugh at me because of my mini 32 roll toilet paper hauls. Better not ask to borrow anyone. Yeah, right? No, I get it. And us women, we have to take extra precaution. Thanks for your support.
Thank you so much for your support. So, the numbers we know are not even close. And it's going to be the countries that are honest, like South Korea seems to be really testing a good segment of their population, and their numbers are jumping up really fast. And so, Italy, we're watching Italy close because, this is heading into the heart of Europe now. And it's also in Iran. And here you see they're spraying the crap everywhere again. So city workers in Daegu, this is South Korea. So now you have mass spraying going on in South Korea. We have it in China. It's only a matter of time before you see that perhaps in Iran and maybe also in Italy. How are the Europeans going to handle this? I'm curious to see. This is starting to spread much, much larger. So this is also off of Hal Turner. And get these numbers, 61.5% death rate for coronavirus victims who need hospital stays. So says the Lancet medical journal study. And so it's not, it's not just Hal reporting it. He's quoting this. He's quoting this study out of Lancet, which is a very, very respected organization. So if somebody has to go to the hospital, 61.5% of the time, they don't leave the doors on their feet.
That is just, wow, that makes my knees weak.
So what do we have? We have extremely mild cases, and then we have cases that seem to be like getting hit with a sledgehammer in your ribs.
Yeah, there's different facets to this. It's multi-layered, and that's just really, I don't know what to think about that, you guys, except for I don't want it.
No. No, most definitely. And thank you guys so much for your support again as you keep us rolling. Another thing that happened I just wanted to share with you guys to the channel was that video that we did while it was live at the 1.2 million on lockdown in Iran. I'd never seen it before, but YouTube said it was restricted age-wise. Now, we have said, as everybody has to say, are you making videos for kids? And we said, no, we're not making videos for kids, right? But anyway, they made it so that the video is only 18 and older can watch it. So that's curious. I've never seen that before. I've heard of other people getting their videos taken down. I've had a ton of videos get demonetized. Right now, we're probably running 80% too.
Thank you, Grizzly. I said I was stationed at Camp Walker. Wonder how the U.S. military is handling it there. Rawr, by the way. Thank you very much, Grizzly. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Grizz, for your support, my friend. So, yeah, this was something different. And you can always tell when you hit a topic that they just don't want out there. So, yeah, but 61.5%, if they go into the hospital, they don't come out. They're not released healthy. So we look at these numbers, and something seems wrong. 78,000 confirmed, almost 23,000 totally recovered, only 2,400 deaths. Okay, things are really not adding up here. They're not adding up at all. And so this is making people very, very suspicious, right? Okay, now we see this red dot over in Iran. We see a bigger red dot in Italy. But it might be that the Iranian red dot's actually much bigger. as we see little dots spreading up all over the place now, and more red dots in the U.S. as well. So let's talk about what's going on over in Iran. Here you see students here are just rebelling and protesting because the university is open and the students might get the disease. So they're saying, idiots, close it down. At the same time, do you see any face masks? These people are all in a group in public. I don't see eye protection. I think this one has a face mask on. But yeah, that's not a good move either. I mean, I understand the protesting, but okay, that lady has a face mask on. Interesting. So they're protesting, and it's not just the students protesting. Iranians poured into the streets to protest against the government's delayed measures against coronavirus. In Lahijan, Talesh, and Efeshan, locals protest against the government as the regime has kept the Iranian people in the dark regarding the spread of the virus. So they have 1.2 million on lockdown in one area, and meanwhile people are taken to the streets right now. So yeah, I see some face masks. It's going to go differently in different countries. If you're putting odds down, I think it's higher odds that the Iranian regime's not going to make it than the Chinese regime right now, because they're already taken to the streets here. What do you make up of that?
I'm just sort of sitting here kind of watching in a little bit of awe because it's spreading so fast, and there's so much information that's coming out left, right, center that we don't really know what to think, what to believe. What is it going to look like here is what I'm wondering.
Iranian security forces used tear gas to disperse people protesting outside Shahid Nourani Hospital. Demonstrations took place when the hospital suddenly became a quarantine center. These people, I guess, are speaking up loudly, and totally different than the situation we saw in China. As we see these fires burning, it's a different situation here, that's for sure. And so, if we looked at the numbers again, in Iran, we are only looking at 28 people as far as what they're telling us. I don't believe it.
Right. And Henry Brown, thank you for your support again. They say it can be spread by aerosol as well. Yeah, that very well could be. I don't put anything past it. I do believe it could be.
And so here we see a student in the Firdos dormitory in Tehran has been hospitalized after testing positive for coronavirus. Reports indicate other students, some most likely already are infected, are fleeing the campus. So this poor kid is, he's been hospitalized now. And get this, you guys recognize this face? I do. Reports that Iranian Brigadier General in the Islamic Revolutionary Guards and commander of the Quds Force is infected with COVID-19. Interesting. Interesting. Is it not?
Well, yeah, I mean, draw us some dots here. It is super curious.
China and Iran, they're getting smashed. I doubt the numbers are even close to what we've been told, and both accounts. And we've heard so much about this being a bioweapon. I agree. I totally agree. But the question again is, who released it? Did China truly release it on their own, to take out their own people? Did they make an error? Somebody did a whoopsie, just like Resident Evil. Remember Resident Evil? She hasn't seen it. I don't think she'd be able to see it, but it looks like a vial drops, and then later on we find out it was thrown on purpose to release it. What's the real story here? Now, if China and Iran end up being two countries that suffer more than other countries across the globe, It makes me a little suspicious.
It does. It does me too. It's like, okay, WTF, why is this happening? Why does it look like this? And what's going to happen next? I mean, this is really seriously at the edge of your seat, something watching. Like, this is crazy stuff.
It is. And Hector Torres has been on top of a lot of stuff over there. Very interesting. Very interesting, to say the least. So the head of GOM, University's Science Medical Department, under the orders of the Ministry of Interior, numbers and stats will not be reported and issued in Iran. Boom. So you want to know what's really happening in Iran? Too bad.
Right. Yeah, that's too bad. They're going to keep that to themselves.
And hence we have people in the streets and things are burning and people are rioting. So yeah, this I agree. This most definitely I would place a bet down for sure. It's biological warfare. I don't know how could we look at all these things? I mean, number one, the RO factor, it's infecting 6 to 8, people per person. Mm-hmm. Spanish flu was 1.8 and that was bad enough, right? Mm-hmm. And we heard it had these HIV-like inlays, and then that whole thing was, retracted, perhaps forcibly. Mm-hmm. It's pretty obvious. But I think the main thing is, to my mind anyway, who really released it? Who really released it? What's their agenda?
Right. And not to take away from the seriousness of the virus, but I do believe, and I have heard, that our crown chakras are coming online, and they needed a huge distraction to keep us from going within. So even though we have a lot of external work to do, you guys don't forget to go within. Super, super important right now. And I do believe that. I do believe our energy bodies have changed, and to me it just makes sense, because it's a serious thing if we start to get our abilities online. That doesn't help them. That we're harder to control.
Yeah, and if we talk about the word corona, which we had weird glitches when we did last time, corona, we could view it as the crown that the king wears, and then we could talk about kingship coming from on high, as kingship was given to us by God/the gods and left with their bloodlines, if we believe the Sumerian writings, of which we have a ton, and hundreds of thousands of Sumerian cuneiform transcripts, all talking about that stuff. Then we also look at like the halo around the saints and like Jesus, and what does that signify? Well, it signals a crown chakra that's wide open. Because that is our connection to the divine. That's our connection to God, to source. And so then this is unleashed on us, a coronavirus. It's just, again, there's too much. I mean, the Simpsons have told us about 9/11 and so many other things. There's things hidden in the movies. Neo's passport in the Matrix expired September 11th, 01. It just goes on and on and on, all the symbology, all the clues that are always around us everywhere we look. And, it's just right out there.
It is right out there. So there's a lot of things. And to me, they are serious enough. They know that this is problem enough to cause this big of a distraction. And that just makes me, I'll pay attention to the external and do what's right. But I'm going to learn about what's going on internally too. It's really, really important. What do we got going on here?
So this is a suspected case of coronavirus in Honduras. So we really haven't seen much in Central and South America. There was one suspected case in Venezuela from what I heard of. And then there was a case of I believe it was a lady that died from this in January in Los Angeles that was hidden, and her body was taken to Peru. So that's all I've heard as far as anything in Latin America. And that event 201, which was interesting because in that case, the scenario was that it started in South America and spread out from there. So apparently right now Latin America is one of the best places to be at the moment. That could change really quick. But this tourist flew from Los Angeles with a transfer in Honduras, and she was recently on vacation in Taiwan. High possibility she infected many in Los Angeles airport.
Oh my gosh. I mean, how many more times does this need to happen before something stops? I mean, look, everybody there is probably going to get sick. And then they're going to go home and give it to their families. I mean, this is terrible.
Yep, exactly. And we see here 9 South Koreans test positive for coronavirus after returning from Israel. So, this is the group that we were talking about before. And then they have the Israeli kids now that are in quarantine because of contact with them. And this is People's Daily in China showing nurses. They have their masks on so long that in some cases it's like causing rashes. It's leaving marks. It's, because they're working double and triple shifts. What some of the people are doing, so there are some superheroes, and that's people that are just selflessly giving, and it's always the case, and these type of times will bring out the best in many and then the worst in others. Now, we haven't talked a lot about preparing for the worst in others, but we should, and that's what goes back to talking about this 96 hours. Think about what you need. Think about what's lacking. Think about what, not just food and water, but things like hydrogen peroxide, alcohol, swabs, bandages, band-aids. What could go wrong? I mean, and what what you're lacking right now.
You know what would be a really good idea? You can go online and get these little camping checklists, as far as like if you're going to go on a quick trip, maybe look online and get a little overnight checklist or what you might need for 3 days. Pretend you're going to go on a trip. Get this and then mark them all off, and that way you're set, that'll give you some direction to start.
So, taking a look at what's happening in now Iran and Italy, it's definitely time for us to take our preps to an all new level. Here you see again, triple case count in one day. This is Dr. Eric. South Korea confirmed cases in the country rose to 433, less than 24 hours after the sum stood at 156. So 24 hours, more than doubling the cases. That's exponential. Over here, nearly 200 foreign nationals were refused entry at Tel Aviv's Ben Gurion airport on Saturday evening after carrying on board Korean Air KE-957 from Seoul. So you had 12 Israelis allowed to disembark, but the rest were not allowed to disembark.
Oh, wow. That's terrible. Yeah. I mean, so many weird things are going on. It's like these stories that they keep telling us, and none of them really make sense, like their actions, the way they're doing things. And usually if something doesn't make sense, it's just not true. So they treat us like complete idiots. And that's why it's really important that we take care of ourselves. We have to turn in and take responsibility for ourselves right now. And of course, yes, pay attention to what's going on in the outside news here and stuff, but just know that these people, they're not going to save you. Nobody's going to save you. You really need to go within and get prepared. Get to know your neighbors, hook up with your friends. Just do the best you can with what you got. That's what Michael and I are doing. We don't have a grand plan either. We're kind of like in a difficult spot. And everybody is. So just do your best with what you got.
So, I just got a message from a reliable source that, hang on one sec, let me get some water. Okay. Basically says that a very good friend of his is a doctor in the heartland of the country. And he said there are definitely cases here. He's sure of it. The issue is they were told that they will not be able to get the patients tested. They were not point blank told, but after a meeting, they had that it was understood that if people are showing signs, just to treat them for regular flu. He said that even if they ordered the test, the lab would not do it. So isn't that interesting? And that's why we're sitting at 35, because it's probably way higher, without a doubt.
Yeah, it definitely higher. It's got to be higher with the way this thing spreads. So, you might as well assume that it's kind of all over the place and then act accordingly.
And beef up your immune system, most definitely. And, as we were saying, everywhere people are going to react differently. And here in China, you see the people with the red armbands. Those are the ones that are there to bring the rule of law. And they are certainly operating just like we're looking at, Nazi Germany back in like 1938, 1939. No different, So every country is going to be different. We see Iran way different than what we're seeing in China. What will it be like in the U.S., UK, Canada, Australia? That's a big question. And it could be very, very different in different places in the U.S., for instance, because the U.S. is such a big spread out country. And we don't have, at the moment, thankfully, although that could change, that type of society, where we can get locked down so easily. And, people get so brutalized as we've been watching. And, just more and more body bags coming out left and right. And this is inside a quarantine field hospital. There's no plumbing in there. There's no plumbing in the place. That's a disaster waiting to happen.
Is that a new hospital? What is it?
It's a quarantined hospital. I don't believe it's one of the new ones that has been built. But you could see, that's most definitely a breeding place and incubation ground.
Oh, yeah.
For
sure.
And I don't see a lot of people wearing gloves. I mean, gloves. It stays on surfaces, guys. Nobody's eyes are covered. Right. I would have gloves on for sure. I think that guy does. As I shared, last time pumping gas, wore gloves, and then used viral antibacterial cleaner after that to double make sure it didn't go inside, paid at the pump. And, again, I touched the screen with a glove, so be aware of the card readers. That could be a way things will get transferred from person to person very, very easily.
Yeah, there's a lot of things you can do, like do practice drills at home. You can probably go online and look up something like how to avoid germs at the grocery store. And you can get all kinds of little tips and hints and ideas to just get you ready to go out in public. If you are in a populated area and say life goes on, you have to do things. It's good just to give yourself a couple of mental reminders as far as what to do while you're out there, because we're doing a million things at the same time. We might forget this or that. And so, yeah, just get ready as best you can.
Yeah, most definitely, and don't risk exposure. Mm-hmm. If they're not checking and the doctors are even being told don't bother to check, because, honestly, that's what it feels like. Then it could explode here at any moment. And, I think what they're doing here is they're just trying to avoid any sort of panic. Right. But the reality is that it's here. It's got to be here, en masse as well. Here you see thousands of people protest in Seoul, South Korea, against the government and boycotted China despite a ban on protests to prevent the spread of COVID-19. After Seoul having 433 cases, look at all those people protesting in South Korea.
In these, are those suits? Like hazmat suits?
It looks like a lot of people have hazmat suits on. It sure does.
Wow.
Here we see a lot of face masks. And, a lot of people are reporting, Israeli News Live was saying that he's getting from sources. Now, he might have just read the same old stuff we have, that you could get it through your eyes. But he was saying that that's the main mode. At least he stated it in that way. That's the main mode of transference. So, I don't understand why people don't have any sort of goggles on as well.
Right.
And so we're seeing protests in Iran. We're seeing protests in South Korea. More power to the people in that sense. Here we see Peter in Sweden. And as he says, the outbreak in Italy is now getting serious. 79 infected, 18 in intensive care, 2 dead, sporting events being canceled, 50,000 under lockdown. People are not allowed to leave or enter outbreak areas. So quarantines underway in Italy and Iran and China. And, it's just, this is spreading, guys. It really is. It is spreading. And here you see from Jennifer Zhang, internal documents obtained by Daji Wan. Cell phone data shows on February 15th alone, 28,000 people escaped from Wuhan. And then from February 1st to 15th, 138.7 thousand escaped. And the tables show their destinations after the escape. So they're looking at phone records. And there were a ton of people that we saw crossing the border, just running across the border. So again, one person infects 6 to 8 is what we've been told, which is mind-blowing. That's like 4 times what we have ever seen. And since Iran has cases, Iraq's bound to get them too, since they are neighbors. And Iraq confirms its first COVID-19 case.
Yeah, so definitely numbers are still going up, not down, which means, this doesn't look like it's settling down at all. And if it is here, it just feels like to me, if it spreads the way it does, it's already been everywhere. But that doesn't mean we don't use gloves and stuff and try to do what we can to prevent further spreading of it. But I feel like it's already everywhere,
Yeah, it is. And like I've shared with you guys, we have a farmer that comes, twice a week, and him and his wife come. And so, for me, if I'm out of like onions and peppers, I'm out of the world, but we basically are just going to keep making do, We do have little baby pepper plants starting to sprout now, yay. But it's going to take a while, It takes a while. So there's just going to be a period of time. And we were talking to a friend, and she said the same thing. And as we're looking at, this is Iran. And people are taken to the streets. They're burning things. They're throwing things. What's it going to look like in the U.S.? Are we going to be seeing stuff like this?
Right.
When? In a week?
Well, yeah. I mean, that's why it's really important that, those of us who are listening and our eyes are awake, we do our part, because it's going to help minimize the blow. I mean, as few of us as there are, I think we're going to make a huge, huge difference, because we are starting that snowball rolling.
So FEMA facility in Anniston, Alabama is going to be used as a coronavirus quarantine center for some of the American passengers evacuated from Diamond Princess. But keep in mind that, that's initially, these quarantine centers initially will be used for that. And then, that'll be an expansion as eventually, look at what happened with China. Some will be quarantining in place. Let's hope that they don't, nail our doors shut. Right. What will you guys do? What's the plan? Do you have a plan? Have you talked to your family? Now is most definitely the time to, you don't want to say smack some people upside the head, but just say, sit down and please watch this, and just show them what's going on. Because unfortunately, it's just what we have seen in the truther community forever, is that, a small segment of the population is awake, the rest are asleep, It's especially hard when, your spouse is totally asleep and you want to do one thing and everybody else in the family wants to do something else. That is definitely tough. And here you see a new case of coronavirus in Tokyo. Is a man who traveled to Indonesia while he was sick. So he's back in Tokyo, seriously ill. How many people did he infect on the trip? And in Indonesia, this is what we're talking about. And here you see Orange County's NIMBYs win injunction against plan to open coronavirus quarantine under the cover of darkness. And this is what we were talking about a couple days ago in Costa Mesa. So you're going to have people protesting just like we've seen in some parts around the world. People will be protesting. They'll be saying, not in my backyard. I don't want to bring anybody in here, and it's understandable.
Yeah, and I don't know, I was just thinking if you want to prepare, maybe look online for how to prepare for a short-term quarantine at home, and you might get new ideas. It's really important now not to freak out, but to look at the solution. Look at the solution, because the solution will get bigger and bigger and bigger, and don't focus on the problem. Just focus on what you're going to do about it.
So if you look at what Jerry is saying, what Rosemary's saying, and this is key, build your immune system now. Vitamins D3, K2, vitamin C, echinacea, turmeric. Rosemary, I know, was talking about boswellia, fenugreek, fennel, eyebright, elderflower. This is the time to build our immune systems. And also just tip off whatever you have, whatever you need to get. If you need to get another thing of rice, I would prefer to get rice that's not coming from China. Just see your country of origin with everything as well, because it was probably let loose in China for quite a bit longer than most of the rest of the world. At least it appears to see this. Sailor Spirit sent me something. Okay, I'll check into that. And I do want to invite you guys to check out our second channel, EE Arts, as well. And come over and join us over there. Subscribe. And I'll bring that up real quick.
Yeah, and if you don't mind, could you please double check and make sure you're subbed to the channel, because we thoroughly enjoy getting on here and chatting with you guys, going live. Like, I think almost every day now we're trying to give updates on the coronavirus, and this is the second channel. Very heart-centered, very useful, very helpful, upbeat, and please take the time to go over there and sub, because there's a lot of really good information there.
Yeah, this is the more spiritual side of things. So right now we have 4.25 thousand subscribers over there. So let's see if we get it up to the 65-ish thousand that we're going to be on the main channel. And join us over there as well. It's a great bunch. They don't bite. So again, now is the time for us to make our really kind of like our final preparations. And I understand that you guys got to go to work. A lot of people have to do still the 9-to-5 thing. Take your precautions. Don't be embarrassed to bring a mask. Don't be embarrassed to wear gloves out in public. Pretty soon, probably, more than likely, unfortunately, you're going to see the majority of people are going to be doing that. But they'll be doing that when it's already spread to a much higher degree. So now is the time. Now. We have to, wake up and get as many people awake. Get our family members. I know you could lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. Unfortunately, a lot of people will not wake up until it's smacking them totally in their face.
Thank you, Grizzly. Remember, unfortunately, peeps will lose their humanity during times of extreme need. Be safe. Definitely be safe. Put yourself first. You can't help anybody unless you're helping yourself first. It goes back to that thing on the airplane where they drop the oxygen things. You put the mask on yourself first so you can help somebody else.
Definitely. So yeah, and do that by building your immune system now. So we'll do some videos on that, and then again, I did a video before on how you could reset your immune system, your entire immune system in 3 days, and it's basically with a water fast. Water, black coffee, or herbal teas. 3 days, and then you could reset your immune system.
Stargazer, you are amazing. Thank you so much. We appreciate that so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stargazer, for your support, and thank you for being part of this family as well. So find your peace as well, most definitely in these times, and that's what today's reading on Arts was about. Because we're going through the death of an era here, and it's a big change coming, a huge change coming. On the other side is something beautiful, but yeah, we got a roller coaster right in front of us right now.
Oh yeah, we do, and we'll just keep doing the lives every night as much as we can. We'll be here, and hopefully we'll see you guys here too.
Yes, most definitely. So guys, as always, thank you so much for your support here and on Ko-Fi and Patreon. Take this seriously, take your preps to a higher degree, and do treat it. Even if it turns out we have more than 96 hours before it really starts hitting here, like we see in Iran right now and in Italy right now, I would prepare as if that's the case. So God bless, guys, and namaste.
God bless and namaste.